This is my truth. Tell me the truth. Tell me my truth. Tell me what the truth feels like. This is my truth. Yeah, truth.
And so this guy called, I was on the bathroom floor, and I said, can I come? I don't have any money, I don't know how to do this. He said, we have scholarship rooms.
Okay.
Where people who can afford it, who've come to the rehab, put in money for, or donate some money for the other rooms, and if there's one available, we can give it to people who really need it. So he said, do you have next of kin, is there family I can talk to?
So you gave him your parents' details?
Yeah, I gave him my parents' details, and he said then, for now, just go to sleep. He was like, just go to bed, get some rest, and he was like, I'll call you again in the morning and we'll talk it out again. He was like, do you have any alcohol in the house? Do you have anything that you need to get rid of? And I was like, I think I've got a bit of this left of it. He was like, do you think you could get rid of it now and not take it? And I was like, okay. So I poured a bit down the drain, and I actually didn't keep any then.
Wow. Okay.
I then spent the next couple of days the next day, because it wasn't long before I went. I spent a day, I went to the gym and I started to feel better. I was like, went for a run. My dad called me and he was like, Nick, we've spoken to this guy. I expected him to be like, we can't afford for you to go to Thailand, what do you mean? Like, we haven't really discussed my addiction or any of my problems properly, really openly. And he said, you've got to go.
Right.
He was like, we know. He was like, we know that you're sick, and me and your mum are going to do everything we can to support you going.
Right.
And I was like, broke down again. He spoke again to Wade, and they were trying to figure out when I would go, and Wade was like, he needs to come like in the next 24 hours.
Okay.
So if you can find a flight as soon as possible, then he needs to go soon, because there's kind of a window when an addict wants to go. Okay. You need to get them to go right then. Right. Because the addict brain will kick in, and before we know it, we're like, I'm fine, I'm okay, I don't need that shit, Yeah. So Wade obviously recognised that I was in this kind of place of near surrender. Okay. So I went back to my parents that night in Bournemouth, and it was catastrophic. I smashed the house up. It was like my body was saying no to going. Right. I think I was still on a bit of a come down, so I was. I just smashed the house up. I screamed at my mum. I was just awful. I was like, I don't even need this shit. I shouldn't be going. I was the one that had asked. Yeah. But my ego just flared up, and the addict in me was just kicking and screaming. Right. So it's super sad when I said goodbye to my parents, because it was not nice. There was no loving send off, because I was a horror. Right. I was just an absolute monster. My poor mum, she was just, at this point, they were just a wreck. And I think them watching me leave, I remember leaving the house early that morning, or next morning, and I think that she knew that I was either going to come back and be well, or not come back. Okay. Right. And I think I knew that as well. Right. I knew at this point that it was getting life or death. But there's still this addict, this ego is just so out of control. Yeah. So I got to Thailand, I met the support worker. I stayed sober on the plane, I didn't drink anything. I met the support worker, lovely guy. he took me in and they gave me, they asked me to give up my laptop and my phone.
Right.
And I kept an iPad in my bag.
Okay.
So I was still lying about things. When you go into rehab, they're like, we need your phone, your laptop. They take mouthwash off you in case it's got alcohol in it.
Okay.
You know, like that you get like searched. And I was like, oh god. I'd gone, and in my head I was like, where's the pool and where's like the fun games? And you know, I was like, why is this like a prison? Why are they searching me? I was like, this is ridiculous. By this point, I was 3 days sober.
Okay.
So the addict was back, my ego was starting to grow again.
Yeah.
Those feelings of, you know, like the hide was starting to creep in again.
Okay.
So for my first 6 days in treatment, I was acting like a support worker.
What do you mean?
I was like, Julie, come talk to me. That's a name I've made up, by the way.
Okay.
I was like, Julie, come and talk to me. Tell me about your problems. I can help you. I'm not as bad as you. You know, like, I was like...
Yeah.
I wanted to be one of the people with the Serenity t-shirts on, helping everybody else. Because I was not as bad as everybody else.
Yeah.
I turned art therapy into a pool party with soda water. And, this is weird, there was these fridges of this bottled soda water, and I was going down to the fridges and stealing them and hiding them under the bed.
Okay.
And like taking one and downing one.
As if it was...
Yeah. Isn't that messed up? Yeah, I was drinking the soda water like
Was that so to still get some kind of fix of whatever... What?
It was like the addict was just so still present.
Right.
Like all of the behaviours, all of the isms of addiction were just all there.
Didn't matter that it was soda water.
No, it was just like I was manipulating everybody.
Right.
There was another guy in there that I remember saying we should do PAA, where it's like we can have a glass of wine on a Friday night. And I wasn't taking it seriously at all. They asked me to write my life story, and I did like a one-man show.
Okay.
And I was like reading it. It was like I've read it back like recently since, and it's like a CV. And I did it. I read it out in this feelings group, and I was like, and then I did this, and then I was on TV, and da da da.
Right.
Like just reading out all of like these jobs I'd done and who I'd met, and you know, it was and kind of glorifying my using as well. So there was always this kind of like distance with me from the other people there and from the owner and the support workers. They could see that something wasn't right.
Yeah. And they must have seen it before. They must know all the...
Oh yeah.
All the signs.
Yeah.
You know.
And we were having to do like 7 AM feelings groups, and you know, there's this big timetable of things that you have to do all day, every day. And I remember we had to do this meditation walk, and it was raining, and I had this new pair of trainers.
Okay.
And we had to do this meditation walk in the like torrential rain, and they were getting muddy, and I was fuming. I was so angry at this counsellor. I was like, this is a fucking joke. I didn't come here to Thailand to get covered in shit. Da 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 da. Like, I was there on a scholarship room, you know. Like I was lucky to be there with these, surrounded by people that were helping me. But I just couldn't see it. I just could not see it. And so on day 5, they put a guy who was withdrawing from heroin into my room.
Okay.
And that was tough. And I think, I don't know if there was a decision behind it or if it was just the way that rooms worked out.
Okay.
But I saw this very sick man, and I was like, I'm not that bad. I don't have the same thing as him. You know, he's physically being sick, and I woke up the next morning and I checked myself out.
Okay.
I went up to the owner of the rehab and I was like, I want my passport, my bags are packed, I'm done. I was like, I don't need this. I will go to meetings on the island. I'm gonna stay sober. I think I even said to him, maybe I could come back and do the yoga. It's like, maybe I could just, you know, come and use your yoga teacher. Like, he was like, no. So he, his wife put me in the car and they took me to a hostel in town on Koh Samui, and they dropped me off and they were like, we wish you the best. You know, at this point I was 6 days into a month out there.
Okay.
And I checked in and then I went to the beach and I had a bottle of water on the beach and I was like, oh, finally I'm on a beach, this is why I came here.
Right.
And within an hour I bought a large bottle of beer. I was like, I'll just have one, it'll be fine.
Mm.
You know, this is even after 6 days in treatment.
Yeah, but it wasn't it wasn't really treatment for you though, was it? Because you weren't
No,
you weren't in
I
it.
wasn't in
you
it
weren't
at all.
Yeah. You weren't immersed in
Uh-huh.
what that's actually there for.
Mm-hmm.
So
So I had the beer and then I had another beer and then cut to a few hours later I'd found my way into an off licence. I got a bottle of vodka and Red Bull was downing it straight.
right.
Cut forward to another few hours, I'd found Coke, and I went on like I think that one just lasted like a night and a bit of a day.
Okay.
And then I was like, what have I done? What have I done? Pull yourself together. How could you do this? Like,
Right.
I can't believe you've done this. You know, like, I really thought that I could stay sober. I was like, I can do this on my own. Like, I know I can. Like, what am I doing? So I was like, right, okay, this time try again. I had a bottle of beer left over and I wrapped it up and put it in the fridge in the hotel room.
Okay.
You know, like I didn't get rid of it.
Yeah.
Just insanity, absolute insanity. I then bumped into a support worker and he was like, oh, is everything going okay? And I was like, oh yeah, it's fine. I was like, I'm just gonna go to a meeting. Like, I was like, yeah, I'm sober, I'm doing really good, just lied through my teeth.
Mm.
Then I hired a moped and then I went to go to a meeting and it wasn't on.
Right.
So I went back to the beach that I'd gone to 2 nights previous and started again.
Okay.
That turned into nearly 7 days. I didn't eat or sleep. I found crystal meth on the island. I found what they call ice on the island.
Right.
A lot of really dangerous bad people, and I had my rock bottom.
Okay.
I can't really. I wrote down the relapse. Like, it's difficult to remember details of it because I actually spent most of that 6 days in blackout.
Right.
Or I don't know if it was maybe a survival thing that I'd like blocked a lot of it out.
Yeah.
But I know that 6 days, nearly 7 days later, I was on the floor of the hostel and I had I was going through a bit of a psychotic episode. I'd beaten myself up, so I had like black eyes.
Okay.
Like physically I was beaten.
Yeah.
And I was searching for what drugs I could find left. There was smashed pipes, the whole place was just a mess. And a good friend of mine FaceTimed me and I answered it. And she broke down because she saw me and she was like, you're not going to survive.
Yeah.
And I just didn't know what to do because at this point I was like, I can't get on a plane, I can't go home, I had no money. It wasn't an option to go back into the rehab because once you've left you can't really go back in.
Okay.
And so my only option was to like end it. I was like, I don't know.
Did you hear those words when she said to you, you're not going to survive? Did that land
Oh
with
yeah,
you?
I knew.
Did you hear it?
At this point, I didn't want to survive.
Okay.
I was like, I'm done.
Right.
I've had it. And so really, it was just became like this. It was like this practical. How do I do it?
Okay.
How can I do it now? Like, I was thinking of ways to do it. I just had enough now, like at this point. And then my dad messaged me. She'd spoken to my dad. My dad had got in touch with the rehab. They knew that I checked myself out, and everybody knew that I was on course to relapse. And so he spoke to the owner of the rehab. The owner of the rehab agreed to take me back in.
Okay.
So within a few hours, I think I passed out on the floor at that point, and then within a few hours they got to the hotel where I was staying, and they picked me up off the floor. And I remember him saying, as he carried me into the car, and I remember him saying, "You're going to be okay now." He was like, you're going to live and you're going to be okay now. And I was just like broken. So they drove me back. The first person I saw was a really good friend of mine, who's a really dear friend now. She's actually a support worker now at the rehab.
Oh wow!
And at the time she was what I call an inmate.
Right.
So I got back and I broke down onto her, and then they were like, "We're taking everything off you."
Yeah.
They put me in a detox room for 3 days. I got given Valium and had to sleep, and I was in this little basement room. And then I literally slept for 3 days. And then on the 3rd day, he woke me up and he was like, "It's your first feelings group." And I was like, "Okay." So I kind of went in my hoodie with my hood up. It's like crawled in, and all the faces were there, like from before.
Yeah.
And he said to me then, "What are you willing to do to get this?" And I was like, "Anything. I'll do anything."
That's such a powerful question, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
What are you willing to do?
Mm-hmm.
And did you mean it when you said it?
Yeah.
Anything?
Yeah.
Okay.
By this point, I was like, "Take me."
Okay.
Like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Looking back, I think that that relapse was a test of myself. Am I really an addict? Surely I can't be.
Yeah.
Oh shit, I am.
I am. Yeah.
Also, it was. I needed to start recovery in that place of just utter surrender, of just complete and utter brokenness.
Yeah.
Because before I'd left it too long.
Yeah.
It had been a few days, so my ego had started to come back.
Yeah.
I had to start recovery. I had to go into that rehab broken.
Yeah.
In order to
So that you didn't have any kind of
so I couldn't
control.
Yeah, so I had no control, so I couldn't manipulate it.
Yeah.
So, and that's what I get now when Wade was saying, I can say Wade, when he was saying, well, you've got to catch, we need to catch him in that window. Like he needs to fly out. So, you know, the owner of the rehab was like, you've just relapsed for everybody in here.
Right.
Like they can all now see what will happen if they go out.
Yeah.
And then started my recovery properly.
Right.
So I went up to Christmas Eve, and I went at the program and at recovery and the 12-step like it was like my life depended on it, because it did.
It did, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then when did you come home? How long did you spend?
I stayed there until Christmas Eve. So I actually wanted to stay longer, but I needed to get home. I wanted to be with my family on Christmas.
Yeah.
And I think like a lot of people, it was very early for me to leave, so a lot of people in the rehab were like, "Is he ready?"
Right.
And I'd agreed that I would do 90 meetings in 90 days.
Okay.
When I got back.
Okay.
I'd been offered a job that would start like 3 months later, so I could do my 90 and 90, and then if I was still sober, it was agreed from my parents, my close ones, everyone that like my loved ones, that I would be able to get on the plane to go and do the job. If I didn't stay sober, if something happened, I wouldn't be able to go and do it.
Right.
So I kind of had incentive as well. But honestly, at this point, I was like, I'm doing this.
So at this point, you'd accepted
completely, 100%.
that you had an illness and that it was...
I was like, I'm sick, I have a disease.
Yeah.
Before then, I didn't see it as a disease.
Right.
When I went back in, I was like, holy shit, they're right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something happened, there was just this shift. Even the rehab looked different when I went back in.
Okay.
I was like, wow, this is a different place. Like,
yeah.
And I realised that I had work to do, and I had to do the work.
Yeah.
And no one was going to do it for me, but I had the support and help of other addicts and support workers around me. And then, the gifts of sobriety came thick and fast.
In what way? What do you mean?
Well, so the 12-step program is basically a how to not be a dick.
Okay.
It's like how to be a good person, like,
and
how to do the right thing.
I was saying to you before, everybody in the world sounds like they should do a 12-step program.
Totally, do one. Power of Now, all of these books, all Eckhart Tolle, Elizabeth Gilbert, Eat, Pray, Love, like,
yeah.
They all kind of preach the similar principles to a 12-step program.
Right.
It's spiritually based.
Okay.
So it's essentially a process of handing your life over to a power greater than yourself.
Okay.
So understanding that you're not in control, things aren't up to you. I had a really good phrase the other day, stop trying to carpet the world and put some slippers on.
That's cool.
Yeah, cool, eh? Like, you can't control everything. All you can control is yourself and how you behave, how you act, how you react.
You move through the world.
How you move through the world, yeah. So a lot of it is just surrendering, giving up, like relinquishing control of things that are external to you.
Yeah. It's funny though, because we say about relinquishing control, and I think for some people spirituality conjures up the idea of, and this is only my truth and my interpretation of it, but conjures up something separate than ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And yet I think when you work your way through it all, you're talking about a power that inherently is within you.
Yeah.
You're so connected to it. It's not something external.
Yeah, they say that the opposite of addiction is connection.
Okay, right.
And it truly is. Like, addiction will lead you to isolation, and the opposite of addiction is connection, which means finding a higher power and understanding that actually we're all the same. There is no difference to me and that guy that came into my room and was withdrawing on heroin. We're the same. We have the same problem. We're the same. So it's kind of finding similarities in other people rather than differences.
Right.
In active addiction, you're just constantly looking at the differences.
Right.
So it's kind of allowed me to be just being more positive, I guess. And like the act of praying, the act of getting on your knees and saying a prayer, it shifts your head into a place of humility.
Right. Because
by saying a prayer, you're essentially saying it's not up to me.
Right.
You're asking for help, you're kind of accepting your place as a humble being on this earth.
Yeah.
Which is a huge help for me.
Right.
And my out of control ego.
Yeah. Yeah, so the benefits, as you were saying, the benefits of sobriety started coming thick and fast.
They did.
Did you do the 90 and 90?
I did, yeah. I did the 90 and 90. I started my step work. Actually, we started our step work in rehab, but I continued on my step work. I
step work as in?
So any 12-step program.
Oh, working your way through the steps.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
just
it
wanted to
has
check I knew what it
workable
meant.
steps. So it's
Okay.
essentially a moral house cleaning. So, you know, finding resentments that you have, making amends to people that you've hurt in the past.
Okay.
You know, taking moral inventory, a daily inventory of the things that how you've helped people, how you've hurt people, what you could have done better.
Okay.
So kind of just finding out who you are.
Yeah.
So it's been quite a profound journey, and it was after my 1990 I started a job. You know, I became economic insecurities left me. I was
Okay.
financially free for the first time in a long time.
Yeah.
I was promoted at the job I'd started really early on.
Okay.
Turned out that I could lead, which I didn't think I could do.
Right.
And just rather than leaving a trail of disaster, I was leaving a trail of happy people.
Yeah.
And I've been able to go back to those jobs, which is something I could never do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So over the past 3 years, I've been able to call up and be like, hey, I'm free, like, and they're like, brilliant, come back. Like,
Wow.
you know, that wasn't ever an option before.
Yeah.
So that's been novel. But the past 3 years, I've travelled the whole of America. I've travelled the world. I've been able to help others, be of service as much as I can, and but more than anything, I've just had like this underlying peace.
Right.
Before it was like I always had a fear. It's
Okay.
like a lived fear base. I just was terrified of what was going to happen all of the time.
Yeah.
And now I'm not.
Right.
I'm not. Even if I'm in a tricky situation, I know it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
I absolutely 100% trust it is.
Yeah.
And I might cry about it a little bit, but I know really ultimately it's fine, and we're all exactly where we need to be.
Absolutely. So for the first time since you were 14, well, 3 years in now, do you like the person you are? Now that you can actually get to know yourself and see yourself without any external layers or camouflage, or
Yeah.
do you like you?
Yeah.
Oh, yay!
I do. I'm getting there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah, I'm
That's
good.
beautiful.
I'm good. And you know, there was this common thing amongst all of us in that rehab and in the rooms that, you know, we didn't like ourselves. We really didn't.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us suffer from it.
Absolutely.
You know, and so for me, having a program of workable steps that allow me to learn the tools how to love myself, how to like myself.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's just little things. Like, it's easy to say to someone, oh, you just need to like yourself, you need to love yourself. How do you do that? What can you do?
Absolutely.
Make your bed.
Right.
You know, get up in the morning and make your bed. That's
Right.
self-love.
Yeah.
You know, like, brush your teeth. When you brush your teeth, congratulate yourself.
Yeah.
Smile at yourself in the mirror because you just did something really fucking good for yourself.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's
So
just
it's not
all
just
these,
about you, it's about taking care of the space around you.
right,
And
these tiny little things that
Yeah.
you can do in life, like
that all then build up.
that all then build
make-
up to make you a whole
Yeah.
complete
Yeah.
person that is then able to give love back.
Yeah. That's the thing, it's not... I touched on it really briefly in a video which was my first and only kind of foray into public speaking, and I was talking about self-love and how people might think it's narcissism. It's not. It's self-love as in self-compassion, which is a completely different...
Yeah.
It's a completely different thing,
Mm-hmm.
but absolutely vital. So where are we now? We're almost beginning of December. How is it when you come round to this time of year again and come round to Christmas and...
It's difficult. It's always a weird one. Whenever I get up to an anniversary, I lose my head a little bit.
Right.
But, you know, like I said, I've got all the tools now,
Yeah.
so I just know that I need to get up and do some yoga, I need to meditate, I need to pray, I need to go to a meeting.
Okay.
If I go,
I mean,
if I go to
even
those
without the
meetings, I'm
anniversary,
fine.
just the fact that it's Christmas and it's a
Right,
season
everyone
that
goes
all
crazy.
of a sudden everything seems about drinking and about... is it just...
And do I have enough money and da-da-da and...
Yeah,
it's all very material, we have it all shoved in our face.
Lots of negative kind of messages that infiltrate
I
our
had a friend, you know, I was
consciousness.
really stressing about like Christmas presents. I was like, oh, what am I going to do this year? Like, you know, how am I going to buy these big things that I want to buy for my nephews? And a good friend of mine who's kind of on a similar path, she was like, I'm painting a picture for everyone. And I was like, oh yeah, you don't need loads of money to paint pictures for people.
Yeah.
And how much more does that mean, you know? Go buy some canvases, some oil paints. So that now everyone knows what they're going to get.
Surprise!
I'm going to paint. I'm going to paint some pictures.
But also without, you know, without sounding too... Well, it's not cheesy, it's just true. The gift that you're giving your nephews and your family is you.
Yeah.
Present and whole
Able.
and...
Yeah.
Just wrap yourself up in a big old bow.
Hey guys!
Merry Christmas! I'm your present. But it's true.
Yeah, you know, and I was not able to be there for them in active addiction, and that was heartbreaking for me. You know, I missed best friends' weddings, I missed, you know, my nephews, like, growing up, and there was so much that I missed. So it's just been, you know, my relationship with my parents now is just incredible. They are the best people in the whole world. My nephews are incredible. I'm present in their lives. I'm able to be there for them.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a gift, and the gifts keep coming.
Yeah.
And I've made old friends back that I lost, you know.
I was going to say, did it affect relationships? Did you lose people along the way?
And... Yeah, massively, and they've all come back. So, you know, however bad it gets, everything passes. I love this phrase, this too shall pass. I kind of want to get it tattooed somewhere.
It's such a comforting phrase though, isn't it?
Yeah, everything passes,
true.
Everything changes.
Yeah.
And rather than fight that, you know,
Yeah.
it's coming to a place of like acceptance of that.
Yeah.
You know, accepting that everything changes, everything is always going to change.
So sometimes it doesn't necessarily change for the better, but you know that in itself is going to change.
And there was this really cool counsellor in treatment, and she spoke about like your emotions, and how we always see emotions as good and bad.
Right.
You know, like we have like happy and excited and da da da, and then we have sad and angry. And she was like, you need to see your emotions as like a circle, because she said every single one is as important as the other.
Absolutely.
And there isn't that one without that one.
Yeah.
So, you know, learning, really the past 3 years have been kind of learning how to manage them and how to recognise that feeling when it comes up.
Yeah.
Oh, cool, I'm angry now. I don't need to do anything about that. I don't need to act on it.
Yeah.
I don't need to scream, I don't need to shout. I can feel it, I can acknowledge it, and then kind of see where it takes me. Be like, why am I angry? Oh, okay, because that happened. Oh no, actually it's because that happened, because that's underneath it all. Oh, well, I can do something about that, or I can't do anything about that, so I'm just going to let it pass.
Yeah.
You know, like I kind of start this like inner dialogue with myself that I wasn't able to do before.
Yeah.
Before it was like I had a feeling and I was like, act on it, boom.
Yeah.
So just having that ability to sit with it, and it gives you peace and time. You're like, oh, I can sit with it and decide what I need to do about it, if anything.
Yeah, absolutely. But sit with it, as opposed to running away from it or hiding from it, or just be with it.
Yeah, and you know, for especially the first year of my recovery and still now, I had never sat with feelings. I didn't
Yeah.
know what it felt like to feel things
Mm.
because I would numb them. I'd use something to get rid of
Yeah.
it straight away externally, and so I was like a baby in my first year.
Mm.
You know, I felt so overwhelmed, like, and I still do. Like, I'm learning, and it's getting better and better.
Mm.
But I would feel sadness and be like, you know, an absolute wreck. It wouldn't be a bad thing. It would be
Yeah.
a good thing. But it was like, oh my god, like
It must
this
be like your
feeling is
nerves
here.
are raw. Like
Totally,
everything's
you're like
really
so
sensitive
exposed.
and-
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Gosh. Is there anything if somebody is watching
Mm.
and they know that someone they know and love is spiraling, or they know that something is amiss, is there anything anybody else can ever do? Because I know that obviously you could only get to the place where you could start the process of getting well because you finally knew
Mhm.
that there was that no one else could have told you there was a problem.
Mhm.
So, is there anything anybody?
Yeah. Don't judge.
Okay.
Understand that addiction is a disease,
Okay.
and what I have is a disease.
Mhm.
So if I'm acting out of my addiction, it is not me, and that isn't to pass responsibility. That isn't to go, oh, I behaved like a dick, but it wasn't me. It was my addiction. It's just understanding that it is actually a disease.
Yeah.
And it's treatable. It's something that can be treated. So recognizing what addiction is, learning about addiction, you know, really what is it? It's a mental disease.
Mhm.
It's a disease in which somebody feels that they need to fill up externally because they don't feel enough.
Okay.
So, you know, how can I help this person understand that they're enough? Just listen to them,
Right.
support them, be there for them, unconditionally. I know how difficult it is for family and friends, because I watched everybody go
Yeah.
through it, and now, you know, now I'm of service, and so I help other people going through it, and I know how difficult it is for me when, you know, a friend relapses, or I have to watch them go through a difficult time. Ultimately, there's nothing I can do
Yeah.
when it comes to, you know, relapsing. I can't control if somebody's going to use or not.
Yeah.
But I can say to them that I will always be here. You can always come back.
Yeah.
I will never judge you. You
Yeah.
can always pick up the phone and talk to me.
Yeah.
Even if it's just a shout and rant.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, the opposite of addiction is connection. So we are stamping out addiction if we're connecting,
Okay.
if we're doing this, if we're talking.
Well said. Is there anything else you want to say?
No.
Oh,
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Oh, I think you're amazing.
I think you are.
Oh, thank you.